Yeah, I knew that would get your attention when it's fresh. I'm actually pretty surprised to see you because you're not one of the usual attendees or various individuals that show up with regularity. That should be the new intro every time we start a stream. Just have some little thing of that song playing. I was really worried that nobody would recognize it. So, because I don't feel like streaming later today uh, and waiting for news to come out as the day progresses, I found a C-SPAN clip that I think is really interesting. I'm going to do it like how we did with the neoliberal power hour, um, except the audio is seemingly going to be better. Let me look, make sure. I've tried to work it out and diagnose the issue. We'll find out as we go along anyway. Okay, let's test this. Yep, good to go. So without further ado, introduction, um, announcements, greetings. We'll go into this clown's speech. Turn it down a little bit.
Republican Whip Steve Scalise, what do you remember about June 14th, 2017? Oh, I remember waking up just excited about going to practice. It was the day before the annual congressional baseball game, and just a great tradition. And was just announced to be the second base starter, and so I was excited about that. And you get out there early in the morning, you're working out with your colleagues, getting ready, and it's kind of lighthearted because most of the real practice has already been done, and you're just kind of going through the motions of getting ready for the big game, and then all of a sudden, shot goes out, and you're not thinking it's a gunshot because why would somebody be shooting a gun on a baseball field? And by the time we had figured out what was really going on, I got hit and went down. And
Did you know you had gotten hit?
I knew that my legs gave out, so I wasn't sure, and I didn't necessarily instantly feel that I was hit. I just felt like something hit me, but I'm not thinking a bullet. And then when my legs went out and I was down, I was in the gravel in the infield by second base, and I just started crawling away. I heard it coming from the third baseline. I never saw the shooter, but I knew that's where the gunfire was coming from, and there was more gunfire. And so I just started crawling away, and then after about 20 feet, I've seen pictures of a blood trail about 20 feet long. My arms gave out, and I couldn't crawl away anymore. And at that point, I just started to pray and prayed to God for some pretty heavy things, and He delivered.
How long were you out there?
It seemed like an hour, but really it was only a few minutes. When you look at the police report, the whole thing might have taken place in a 15, 20-minute period from when he started shooting till when the shooter was taken down. But there was a lot of gunfire, almost 100 rounds between the shooter, and then started with David Bailey, who's my lead detail officer on my United States Capitol Police detail. He engaged the shooter, and then Crystal Griner, who was with my team that day, she then started engaging the shooter, and both of them were shot during the shootout, and yet still kept going at it, and kept the shooter away from us, which really is what saved so many of us. That the shooter, instead of being able to pick off all of us who were just sitting ducks, he was engaged in a gunfight with David and Crystal, and then ultimately other Virginia law enforcement showed up, and they took him down.
In your book, Back in the Game, you reconstruct almost minute by minute what was going on, but you're laying there on the field. Are you still conscious at this point?
I was. I could hear everything that was going on. In fact, when
Just wanted to give a point something out very quickly. There's a thing I really hate about uh, politics, and one of those is the celebrity of it. And really, what I feel is a refusal to really acknowledge people's accomplishments or various things they've done in office. So, for example, you might remember possibly Winter Fresh, the congressman who days before the special election had attacked some reporter. He's actually going to run for governor, by the way. And there was a whole wave of sensationalism based around him assaulting this journalist and getting his mugshot released to the public. And yet somehow people, they'll look at something like that and they'll go, "Oh yeah, that's what I remember that person for." And this is the oh, you forgot. All right, well, I'm just saying that's something that happened around the same time that this shooting that Scalise is describing. And this is the number two House Republican, and they're spending a really large chunk. I would be willing to bet my whole sack that you could take people that live in his state, people like me who don't live in his state, that only know him as a national figure, and ask them to name one thing about this guy in his years of being in the House, and the only thing they would be able to name is that he got shot. And that's really pathetic. I don't blame the people. I blame a media that is very reluctant to cover these people unless something, either some scandal or something terrible happens to one of them. That's why we have that saying, "A death in the limelight." You had this senator from South Carolina, Ernest Hollings, who was one of the longest serving senators of all time. He was in office for about 39 years, I think, just really, continuously, just decade after decade. And between the time when he retired from the Senate, when I was, I think, in second grade, and when he died a few months ago, I heard almost nothing about him. And then he passes away, and they're doing obituaries. They're going, "Oh, look back at the life of Senator Hollings." Like, that's a death in the limelight. A person who was significant or actually did something of achievement that got ignored, just throughout being stable, healthy, whatever. And then once they pass, "Oh, now it's time to sing them praises." Same thing with him. I guarantee you, if he did not get shot, you would not hear a single thing about him at all, unless maybe it's in one of those, like, those joint press conferences that they do, where they all get together and go, "Oh, we'd like to announce that we hate the Democrats today because of this reason." So let's continue.
When I was hearing the gunshots, for all I knew, it could be me again, and that could be it. And so, when I was praying for, the first thing that came to my mind is, I've got a young daughter, and I just had this vision of her walking down the aisle alone, and I just said, "God, please don't let Madison have to walk down the aisle alone." And it was just an emotion that overtook me. And then I prayed that, I'd be able to see my family again, and that I did ultimately pray that Dave and Crystal were able to carry out their duties properly, and they were. And so, at that point, it really did. It's unreal how it kind of gave this calm over me. I didn't feel pain, which I had incredibly severe damage internally. I wasn't aware of any of that. I was losing almost all of my blood. I showed up at the hospital with a zero into hundreds of pieces inside of me, and shred through all of my.
I skipped a little bit ahead because I'm trying to see how much of this. Again, we're playing a bit of an experiment here for the person that just joined or who just left, where basically in this 20+ minute interview, I want to see how much of it is just shooting, 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 shooting. Guy's been in office for over 10 years. I want to see how much of it they're going to devote to this one day in his career versus the entire rest of everything else. So we are now 4 minutes in.
Organs, and caused all kind of internal damage.
Shooting.
That my femur was shattered. I just knew my leg gave out. And once I got on the helicopter, it seemed to me like it was taking forever. And I remember thinking at one point, I don't care where you take me, just take me somewhere. I don't want to bleed out on this ball field. And situation made it out. So I know I'm lucky to be alive.
And you were flown right up here from near our office up at MedStar, correct?
That's right. MedStar Hospital is where.
Okay, so now we're 7 minutes in. Let's see. And this goes to show gun laws don't really help much. I don't know about that, but the point I'm trying to make is it is very disturbing that first of all, I don't get where if you get shot, you don't, and especially as a member of Congress who has the power to, influence legislation as someone that can vote on these matters, how you just be, or like, Well, somebody tried to blow my brains out yesterday. Let me go back to opposing gun laws. And that was crazy. Uh, but I was trying to point out that in this interview, I really wanted to see, because I know it's in relation to this book that he did that was recounting this shooting, which, by the way, I don't know how you take something that was only a day and then a couple of weeks and just pad it out. Like, that was crazy. But I wanted to see if he would talk about anything else besides the shooting. And now we're a third into this interview. And we still have nothing else, which again really is lame because if you've got someone who's been in Congress for over a decade, I'd like to hear their positions, how they're feeling about contemporary issues. I mean, I would think that's only fair. Whatever. I'm asking for too much.
Where they took me. I never heard of it. They were initially Jennifer. She's in New Orleans with the kids. It's summer, so they don't have school. So, she's not going to expect at 6:30 in the morning to get a phone call saying your husband's been shot on a ball field. And yet, that's what happened. And it's kind of like these mixed feelings. She's not thinking like, okay, this isn't real, or this
Okay, we are now 8 minutes in. Let's go to 10
came to
minutes.
visit me that same evening. And of course, then you add in the Secret Service. And
Unbelievable. This whole interview is just, I was shot. This person came to see me after I was shot. They took me to a hospital after I was shot. I recovered after I was shot. Like, Jesus. And again, I get it. The book is about this topic, but part of me almost wants to go out and get that just to see what kind of like master at padding and exposition do you have to be to take this one event and just stretch it out like that. It's crazy. Damn, he's banking on that incident. Yeah, like what I think is so crazy is that like I'm not I kind of have mixed feelings, but because I think that if you have a traumatic experience and you don't want to speak about it, that's the right of the person. Um, and he did undergo, injuries from this, but it's like, okay, not even 2 years later, and here's a novel where, and this is how these people aren't as stupid as they try to make themselves seem. He knows that people are driven by two things when it comes to like really being intensely focused on political crap: sensationalism, um, or some kind of like huge drama, just kind of in the same category, but not really. So, sensationalism would have been a scandal. The drama is him getting shot. He knows to talk about that instead of his career because he's not going to elicit sympathy from saying, oh, I tried to ban abortion and I was such a hero for that. Or I voted to bomb babies in Yemen. I was so tough for doing this. He knows that people are going to read that trash. So he's got to take this event, which let's not have, because I know people like to twist words and make me seem like I'm saying stuff I'm not actually saying. No one is saying isn't a traumatic or freaky, life altering experience. But to be in Congress year after year after year and barely talk about your record at all, then get shot one day, recover for a few weeks, and then write a whole book about it. It just seems like so crafted and really speaks to the genius of these people. They will take something that bad that happened and just milk it as much as possible. Congress needs term. Oh, there we go. Pandora's always in there ready to throw a curveball in what I'm saying. I mean, I told you I'm sick of my congressperson. They've been there for 3 terms and they've sucked since the first one. So, and the problem is when people like to say they want it and push for like, I get the smiley face. I'm so flattered. Give me some flowers. Uh, the issue I have with that is every single time it's presented, I always think about the few members I actually like, and it kind of pisses me off the idea that they'd be forced to be taken out to possibly get someone that's worse. So that's always been my biggest problem with that. And I do like the idea of the voters being able to, like I already said, my congressperson's only in there because they run as the sole Democrat against, a Republican in a blue district. It's the same reason why Pelosi wins. She's in a blue district where the only people challenging are Republicans that aren't going to get any votes anyway. I remember I actually had a joke that my state, the just the overall state of California, was like the Soviet Union because it's one party system, or like Mussolini era Italy, and you could describe Texas the same way, Alabama, Georgia, all these different. Well, maybe not Georgia because they're slightly purple. They're a little bit better than the others. But the point is, it's so telling of all these different states. Like they're all two halves of the same coin, where the people actually think, if I just keep voting for that one party, things are going to change. But yeah, I'm so happy to see Splendor. I couldn't believe when he showed up. It's like, wow. I had to clean out my glasses. I couldn't fathom. It's like it's a good example. It's like when you see. I remember when that second Fantastic Four film came out, Rise of the Silver Surfer. There was a guy who was like, "Oh, Galactus is in it," and then everyone who went to see it didn't know that he was in it as a cloud. They were expecting to see the full appearance, and then you come out of there, it's like, what the hell? It's like, where was he? It's like, oh, they made the cloud have like the shape of the helmet. I really hope that's not what they're actually planning on showing us as the full thing. And then they did that because the stupid director thought they were going to get a sequel or a spin-off or whatever where they could put him in there. It's like, yeah, that didn't happen. Same thing. I agree. I don't know what the context is, but I agree. Well, the only person that can do the same thing over and over again and get different results is Beto O'Rourke. Hmm. That's why he was able to run for Senate and lose, and run for president and and trail in the polls and still have a very, very high chance of winning, at least within his own mind. Someone actually left a comment on the video I did about him. Not the one yesterday, but the one, it was like one for maybe um, it's like Beto coins or something. And the person was like, haha. I was like, man, this is old. Get out of here. Get up to date. Really crazy. I couldn't believe it. Was like, I even think that thing had like 30 views. Where did you come from? Okay, the content is people always voting for the same person or party, expecting them to be different next time. Yeah. Well, like, but here's the thing. I swear, and again, I've said before, I have a low opinion of, I think, a lot of the voting block or whatever. I just don't ever see any people in real life ever ask politicians questions about, like, why you support this position? When did you start? Does your voting record have to do with this? Like, I to this day have, or work supporters on Twitter, for example, who will say that he's progressive, and then I'm like, okay, if he's progressive, why the hell did he vote for the 700 billion military budget? Why the hell did he vote to deregulate the banks? Why the hell did he vote for the what's some other stupid stuff he did? It'll come to me, but when you see stuff like that and their refusal to address it, I'm not really convinced. I was using that as an example of how people get like so into the personality of these candidates that I just feel like they don't genuinely know much about them. Like I really believe we could do a poll and 99% of my district couldn't tell you what their congressperson, like how they voted on probably anything at all, except maybe like the really basic stuff. Like, those bills where it's like, every single Democrat voted to advance this stuff like that because, you know, it it's so unanimous. Okay, because the so-called modern progressives are liars, and it would be more accurate to call them regressives. Oh, Splendora's trying to insult me and call me a regressive. That's cyberbullying. I don't know if you saw the Snowflake sequel where I got accused of bullying someone by saying I'm not going to talk to you if you don't watch my video. So we're gonna accuse you. We're just gonna throw that word around now like it's a hot potato. That's our new way of doing things. I mean, who needs to actually go in depth in their answers and observations about topics? Am I right? Oh yeah, there's a picture on. I almost wish I had done Google Hangouts, uh, where basically on Twitter, all of the Republicans that are running for reelection next year have their photo like um, pushed onto this. It's basically a collage of all the different members, and they're like, we've got to vote them out and replace them with Democrats. I'm looking at the thing. I'm saying to myself, you guys really want to knock out the guy in Louisiana? Like, you really think that's even feasible? Like, it just feels like it's more grand. That's why I said that I want to put that clip of that guy on C-SPAN on New Year's Day saying this was going to be a year of mudslinging and grandstanding, because it's literally grandstanding. You have no chance of beating the Republican in that deeply red state, but then you're like, yeah, we gotta get rid of them. Yeah, I'm not saying you are, just that the movement in general that calls themselves progressive or regressive. I already told you they spit in their own face. Like, other than Sanders, they will disown you in like 5 seconds, man. It's crazy. Like, they got on my nerves because I saw some of them that I follow crapping on Rokana. I was like, you guys are cutthroat as hell. Like, you're gonna get to a point where you have no candidates. And it's not even like about blindly supporting anyone, but it's like they'll take one comment you said and then they'll just lose their minds. It gets on my nerves. It really is like a polar. Um, Not all of them do it, but it almost reminds me of how, like, when I was talking about how the Trump supporters like Lindsey Graham during the Kavanaugh thing, and then he opposed Trump pulling out of Syria back in, I think it was January, and they were all talking about how stupid he was and crappy warmonger, blah 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 blah. And I was like, how do you go from loving this guy for standing up for this stupid Supreme Court nominee to hating him for doing what he always does, which is support our foreign conflicts in a span of what, 60 days? Really short amount of time. It was crazy. That picture was really disturbing. They put Pat Roberts on there. He's retiring from the Senate, and they're like, "Yeah, we gotta get him out." And the person put like retiring on his. I was like, then why did you even include him? You're telling us to beat someone that is leaving. Oh my god, that certainly is some regressive logic. I have to give Splendora that. I have to credit him for accurately reporting their behavior. Because I was looking at that list. It's really like it's 30 plus people. And what I think is always funny is that whenever I see people swearing revenge on members of Congress, not the president, right? I always laugh because I know the way people are, and they're not organized enough to bring down next to any congressperson at all, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that to be funny or to like say it's impossible. I'm saying that based off of the way what I see from them and their overall lack of interaction when it comes to Senate or House elections on average, there is no way in hell they get rid of most of these people, if any at all. Like I remember the Crowley thing, I still have to remind myself that that even happened because it's such a rare thing for anyone that these people back, whether they're progressive or just Democrats, whatever the hell, to get organized, like, yeah, we're going to take you down and actually succeed because they never are that organized. They're not like this is how stupid they are. They go on there and they say we need to get rid of Collins in Maine, who has voted with Democrats more than most of the other Republicans. And they won't even because she has multiple people challenging her. They'll split their funding between like multiple Democrats in the race so that she ends up having more and then crushes the person in fundraising and then subsequently in the general election. Same thing with McConnell. I was like, you guys have been trying to get rid of him for years. It's not going to work. Just don't give up, but just like realize there are certain places and things that you're not willing to do. It's just a bunch of crybabies. Oh, this senator didn't vote the way I wanted them to. Time to get rid of them. Oh, this congressperson is not acting like a member of their party 99% of the time. Okay, Splendora says, I don't like warmongering, so I disagree when it comes to warmongering, but he was in the right when it came to Calvin. I think I misspelled that name, lol, but too lazy to look up how you spelled it right except for the C. So it was very close. I mean, I already gave my opinion. I think he did it, but I don't think that disqualifies him from because again, he didn't rape her. He just pinned her to a bed. Um, and the Democrats are really stupid because they should have talked about how he voted with corporations or sided with them 87% of the time, but they decided to allow the issue of whether he touched this chick 3 decades ago to be the main thing. So they fell on their own sword. It's really ridiculous. I'm surprised, Splendora, if what you're saying is true. You should love Collins because she was under a whole bunch of pressure to vote against Kavanaugh. And then it's really funny because I remember I watched that speech she gave, and these guys were like, "Oh, she just talked about the allegations, not about his record." I was like, "Yeah," because the Democrats were stupid enough to not talk about his record in place of talking about these allegations. So, you can like when you remove the record of the person, when Republicans tell you, "Oh, well, he is qualified to be on this seat," that's objectively true, even if the record, in my view, as a person identifies as progressive is the complete opposite of it. I'm looking at this thing this woman put up from one of her challenger in Maine, the one that announced today. Might have not been. It might have been a different one, but her name is Sarah Gideon, and she says, "I'm running against Susan Collins for U.S. Senate because Mainers deserve a senator who will always put our state first." Now, listen back to that line and tell me it doesn't sound like every single campaign ever. And that's why I really hate a lot of these elections because they know since people are not going to pay attention to them, they can get away with being lazy and writing stupid stuff like that. What the hell do you mean put Maine first? No specifics. Let's build this campaign together. Will you join us? I don't think so. Hell, most of the people who are claiming they want you to win won't join you by donating. So that's how you know that like the group that is opposed to these different congressional members, they're not serious about getting rid of them. Like all they want to do is just sit online and whine and scream and holler like a bunch of babies. Was not a credible Again, we can agree to disagree. I don't care about it anymore, man. Like you gotta understand that whole thing was like a big waste of time to me because even if he wasn't on the court, it would still be another right winger. Hell, I actually have people who don't even remember who Gorsuch is. Like they got so caught up with Kavanaugh, they don't even know who the first one was. It's like he sucks just as much. What is this called for a ride? Oh, that's part of the other one. I'll read your comment in a moment. Let me see what it is. Uh, it'll get. Oh, it got to be over 20. Yeah, I don't know why they don't just make it unlimited. They're trying to turn the YouTube chat into Twitter, which incidentally I'm on right now. That's why I looked away from the camera. I was just seeing what people were writing about this new challenger person. Oh man, they are really trying to push this. It's like I know who you guys are. I've watched you in multiple campaigns. You just get upset online, and then nothing changes because you're not serious about doing any of this stuff. It's crazy that you can vote one way, and then I think we've Splendor. I don't know if you remember the Republican that voted against him, but like here's like this is a running theme where they get pissed when you don't do what they want, but then when you do what they want, you get no credit. Okay, Banjo Kazooie enters the arena. Yeah, I played Smash before. I'm not. Wow, I'm so offended. You didn't think I had a good grasp of gaming genres and modern consoles and classic video games. What a sick thing. I was so flabbergasted by your decision to attempt to not know what I was of what do you call it aware of and whatnot. Where did Winifresh go? He just disappeared. He was here for a little bit and then he was like, all right, I'm gonna hang up my hat and let Splendora uh, take over. Yeah, I was getting really worried. I was like, where did he go? We're about to send out the search and rescue team. I actually had a person I wrote that to. I think it was last month. They were involving me on this project, and they were like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "It's a joke." And people lose their minds on here so easily. It's pathetic. Who else is running next year that is getting like all the talk? Like other than McConnell and Collins, I'm trying to think. Uh, who else? I have to give it a pondering. I don't know hardly anything, so I can't really comment much about it. Oh, well, sometimes if you don't know anything about certain things, you can react to it and go, "Oh, I thought that line you said was funny." Ha 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 ha. I've actually done that online a couple of times. Just type ha 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 ha. So if you find anything comedic, you can say that because it's alpha and you can't beat me. Drop you like Greece's GDP. Let's see if you get that reference. I don't. I looked at it. I tried. I summoned up all my cultural reference knowledge, and it didn't go. I tried very hard to recall. I was like, where could this possibly be from? And they were going crazy on here. I made a mistake not using Google Hangouts anymore. Yeah, yeah. I haven't watched Epic Rap Battle in like 2 or 3 years. So I haven't kept. I haven't keeping. What's the proper word to use there? Kept up with it since then. It's been a very long time. I tend to stay away from a lot of this stuff, unless it's like someone sends it to me. I just get. They made new ones recently. I don't know if they did Winter. I recall. I have some semblance of memory. I didn't want there to be any misconceptions about how hip I was when it came to this type of stuff. Okay, let me see. Okay, you guys have anything else to say? Otherwise, I can cut it out because I think I pretty much am out of stuff to discuss. I could probably upload. So I'll definitely upload some tomorrow. I need to review that new chapter of Super and draw a picture and put it up on there. So that'll probably come either Tuesday or Wednesday. Um, but yeah, thank you for participating. I appreciate it. We had two people who just kind of sat there and didn't say anything. They had their mouths taped and glued, so it's all right. Have a good day and stay safe.